Hello and welcome to our show. Our guest today is Martha Boice, who is Landmark Chairman of the Historical Society. Martha has been here before and has shown us slides of the stone houses in our area and talked a great deal about them. Well, today she's come back again and she's going to tell us how her study of the stone houses has led to a study of the Nutts. We're going to find out what that connection is between the Nutt family, and remember that Aaron Nutt was the founder of our Centerville, and these stone houses. Martha, it's very nice to have you back on the show.
Thank you. You know, you get in on a certain number of jokes when you tell people you're studying the Nutt family, and it's really more difficult when you aren't related to them. But this has led me down lots of interesting avenues. And I'd like to show you first, before I have some pictures of some of the stone buildings that were connected to the Nutt family. But first I'd like you to see a picture that we received of Aaron Nutt, their oil paintings. And this is Aaron with his full beard.
Oh.
And his wife, Mary. This was his first wife, Mary Archer. And the family lore is that these were Mary and Aaron. However, we sent these photographs to the Ohio Historical Society, and their fabric specialist said Mary's collar was really Victorian, and Aaron's beard would have probably been a post-Civil War beard. That's, you know, when Abraham Lincoln grew a beard, then they became fashionable. But before the Civil War, they weren't fashionable. So they felt at the Ohio Historical Societies that these pictures were probably 100 years old, not quite early 1800s.
Kind
so
of
we're
a controversy
still
there.
Looking for documentation. But I got interested in the Nutt family with the number of houses connected to them. This was Aaron Nutt's tavern. The not Crossed Keys, but the Buck's Horn.
Yes, that still stands today, doesn't it?
Right, on North Main Street.
Next to the dry cleaner.
That's
well, now,
right.
Did Aaron Nutt live in a stone house?
No, he lived in a log building. He lived at the corner of Ridgeway and Maple. The house, the Victorian house that's there now, is the third house on the property. I think his was a log house. But the other houses in the family belong to, this is Aaron Nutt Jr.'s house on Alexandersville Bellbrook Road near Clio, and there under the stucco is a nice story-and-a-half stone building, and the smokehouse is adjacent. And then we have this wonderful barn. The only stone barn in the area was Aaron Nutt Jr.'s.
I don't think people realize it's back there. There's so much shrubbery around Alexville, they can't see these stone buildings.
Can't see it from the road. This is a house that belonged to John Archer. It was in an 1809 tax list, very important list.
Now, what's the connection of the Archers to the Nutts?
This was Mary Nutt's brother. Her maiden name was Archer, so this would have been Aaron Nutt's brother-in-law.
All right.
And it's this stone building. His son-in-law, John Beck, built this one on Iron Gate Drive.
Oh, yes, I'm fond of that. That's behind the BP station.
That's right. Then this is at 81 North Main Street, and we talk about the Robbins and the Nutt family. And actually, Benjamin Robbins' wife was Bathsheba Nutt, who was Aaron's sister. That's how they all were in-laws. So all the Robbins family houses were connected to the Nutt family. This is a little building that's behind the house at 27 West Franklin. And I think that it's the summer kitchen for that house. And it's of stone and was owned by Joseph Fisk, who married Benjamin's daughter, Mary. And then Benjamin Robbins' daughter, Nancy, married Peter Sunderland, and this was their wonderful two-story stone house. And then Benjamin's daughter, Bathsheba, married Enos Doolittle, who built this Doolittle Tavern in the 1830s.
Now that stood where our township hall now
That's
stands.
right. And then Aaron Nutt platted a small square block right near the main intersection of town, which is called the Nutt Plat. And he platted it in 1805 or 6. And this Aschel Wright house is supposed to be the oldest house on that plat. And it's amazing to us who study stone buildings because 5 houses of stone are left in Aaron Nutt's small square block plat.
And it could have been that there were even more there. I've heard that perhaps there were even more stone houses.
This one at 60 North Main was Andrew Vincent's house, built around 1832. It was the second house there, and I'll have to get down with my camera to take more photographs because this porch has recently been removed.
Right, they've restored that house again, and I think it's holly and laces in there, isn't it?
That's right, and it has a very different appearance without the porch. This one is the library for the Baptist College that's connected to the Baptist Church, and that's on Maple Street, a beautiful 2-story stone built around 1835 for James McKinney, who was a tailor. This is right next door to it. We call it the Stone Cottage, and I think the earlier part was perhaps built in 1814 by John Middaugh, who owned the property first. And then we think the second part to the left was built by Joseph Tice, who was a stonemason from New Jersey. And he came in the 1830s. So
these 5 houses we've seen are all what's left of in the center of town. That's the original plat.
The Nutt Plat.
Right.
That's right. This is the last one. 25 East Franklin, and this is the James Harris house built around 1838. So that gives you an idea of the number of stone buildings that were connected with Aaron Nutt's family.
I know I saw on an early map when it showed the first time it was recorded that there were houses here in Centerville, and it was called Nutt's Plantation. And people use the term plantation to mean their farm, their plantings. So that was really the first name of Centerville, Nutt's Plantation. So it's worthy to study the family. All right, now you were curious about certain things about these stone houses. And what led you to get into the Nutt family?
Well, I wanted to trace the house styles to their path of migration. And so I had this family tree that Harriet Nutt compiled, and it had over here on the right this message.
Would you like to hold it up?
Let me read it first.
Okay.
Adam Nutt was born in Wales. 1700 came to America. Welch settlement in Phoenixville and Philadelphia, Pennsylvania in 1722. Bransons and Nutt said to be of Welch origin. Towns of Cumru and Birdsboro. And this is what the family tree looked like.
It's quite
she drew up, and many times, Janet, I would just love to have a seance with Harriet Nutt, who died about 5 years ago, to find out exactly what she meant and where she got this information. I wanted to find the towns of Cumru and Birdsboro.
You're looking for a Welch connection to the stone houses.
That's right.
All right, through the Nutts. You feel it's through the Nutt family.
Right. I wanted to see if there were houses in Wales that were similar to the ones here in Centerville. And I had a big book at home, Houses of the Welch Countryside, but it was all by counties, and I didn't know what county Adam Nutt was from. So I wanted to find out where Cumru and Birdsboro were in Wales, and I wrote to the Tourist Bureau and the Chamber of Commerce in Cardiff and asked them, and they sent this message out to all the counties in Wales, and I got back the loveliest letters you would ever want to see. They had looked in old atlases, early maps. They had looked in the Mormon listings. They told me that Nutt and Branson were not Welsh names. You weren't going to find them over here in Wales. And they said that Cymru, C-U-M-R-U, was like the Welsh name for Wales, which was C-Y-M-R-U.
I know they have a different alphabet.
Right.
That they use.
And they all wanted to see that little piece of paper that said Cymru, that original, so that they could have a good look at it. Well, it was just by chance that I found out that Birdsboro was in Berks County, Pennsylvania, and Cymru Township is located close by it. So
really the reference in the family tree was to Pennsylvania's
Eastern
Welch area.
Berks County is close to Bucks County, Pennsylvania. That's
Okay,
right.
Your puzzle's starting to come together a little bit.
That's right. And then I decided, well, if I really wanted to find out much information from the Nutt family, I'd need to go down to the library. And you know, I've gone down to the library a lot, and I've studied in their original sources and had just wonderful days at the library. But I thought I'll just sort of play like I really don't know anything about the library, and I laid it on this genealogist who's there on Wednesday mornings. I want to find out what I can about the Nutt family. Well, she sent me to quite a few different places, and I found out that there was a man in, Rodeo, California, and he wrote The Nutt Tree in 1970 ? And it was in the Library of Congress. And his name was Ivan L. Andrews. So I wrote this all down, and then pretty soon the librarian laid out a folder, and it had all the letters that Nutt family members had written to them asking for information. And I got Michael Murray's 1983 letter, and a woman from Kirksville, Missouri, a Homer Best from Tulsa, Oklahoma. Now, we've heard from him with the Historical Society before, and I think he's died in the meantime.
Now, this shows the importance of keeping these letters, that the fact that the libraries keep them as a source for other people looking for information. Yeah.
Well, I got a letter organized. No, first I called Ivan Andrews on the phone because there was no address for him in the phone book at Rodeo. And his wife said, oh, he's busy making jewelry this time of the year, but I'll let him talk to you for a little while. And he was excited to find somebody in the Nutt family. And he's on a different line, but he saves everything that comes across his door that relates to the Nutt family, and he has an intricate numbering system. And after jewelry season was through, Christmas was over, he sent me a box of material that took me half a year to get through.
Oh, that's wonderful.
One of the things that he sent was this 7-page Nutt family history, and it was compiled in 1959 by 2 sisters. One lived in Urbana, Ohio, and one in Whittier, California. And it had some material in it that we had never found in our area. It's like what's in Beer's History of Montgomery County, but it's much expanded. And you know, every time I'd met anybody in the Nutt family, I'd say, now do you know of any stonemasons in the Nutt family?
I know you're always looking for a connection.
Well, here I read, Levi, instead of clearing the land that his father gave him.
His father was Aaron.
Right. Turned his attention to the trade of brick and stonemason, and by doing so, got in debt for about $60. And it tells how his father Aaron found out about this and helped him out with $60.
Which was a lot of money.
Oh, yes. But this is the only stonemason that we know of, and he would have been about 20 years old when the Nutt family came to Centerville. Quite able to quarry stone, and I'm sure he's responsible for some of the buildings. And then you know how people argue about who came first to the area?
I know in this community, we don't know whether Washington Township with Dr. John Hole, or whether it was Robbins, or whether it was a cabin in Bellbrook, or what. What does it tell there?
This was written by Aaron Nutt's son Joseph to a cousin. He's trying to fill him in on the family history. And he said after the company returned to Kentucky,
Meaning the three men.
After they'd surveyed the area, said Uncle Benny Robbins moved here forthwith, landed here on the 6th day of April, 1797, and was the second, if not the first family to settle in what is now Washington Township. But a few days difference, I think, in his coming and that of Dr. John Hole.
So they both would have been here about the same month.
April 1797.
Well, now we know of two settlements here.
That's right.
Before even the turn of the century.
Well, I wrote a letter to all the Nutt family members, and I asked them which county in Wales Aaron Nutt came from, and where Cumru was, because I hadn't found that out yet. And I sent maybe a dozen of these letters out, and one respondent that I got was Michael Murray. And his is a very interesting story, Janet. He's actually related to a different Nutt family. There are about 4 or 5 different branches of the Nutt family.
You know, and I thought that was an unusual name, but evidently not.
Well, one family settled in New England, and they have a lot of descendants, and another in Virginia, and one in North Carolina, and they have Texas connections. You know, there's certain branches that went certain places, and Michael Murray isn't related to our Aaron Nutt and his branch, but he found a book called The Nutt Family Through the Years by Merle C. Nutt. He was really interested in it. He thought he'd find all his answers in it. And when he read it, he realized that Merle Nutt did not have the correct line. There were dates and names that didn't add up. And he spent about 5 years, and he ended up giving our Historical Society all of his supporting data, which is, well, it's a great big box of material.
We're very fortunate to have so much in our genealogical files. Yeah.
And he found out that Merle Nutt did actually descend from Aaron Nutt's family, though he didn't claim it in the book. But after this 5 years of research, he got all done disproving what he had put into the book. And he was ready to write to Merle Nutt, and you know what he'd tell him. And the poor fellow had died about a year before he got all finished. And I saw a copy of his letter to the widow. I'm sorry to have to tell you, but Merle did not descend from Cyrus Nutt as he had hoped, but from this other line. So in the process, he sent us a computerized family tree. Let's see how many pages this is.
Oh my.
84 pages. We have this all on a computer disk as well. And some of the wonderful material that we found in this big box was this description of a sampler. And this is written up in the Genealogical Society of Pennsylvania about 1888, I think. And it says that Aaron Nutt's father, Levi Nutt, was the son of John and Ann Nutt.
And that kind of dispels the thing, because we always understood that his Aaron's grandfather was Adam Nutt, who
and
came from Wales. Yeah.
This gives all the family. This gives Aaron Nutt's birth date, his sister Bathsheba, and all the brothers and sisters. And it says it's at the end, worked by Ann, daughter of Aaron and Abigail Taylor, in the 12th year of her age for her grandmammy. And Aaron Nutt's mother was her grandmammy.
Oh, yeah.
So this leads you to the question, whose word do you take?
Well, I can see a lot of controversy will arise between different information that comes from different members of the family or different parts of the branch.
That's right.
I know we have a sampler from that's now at the Walton House. It comes from the Nutt family, and these are always very good sources of genealogical information. This is done by who?
This is Caleb Nutt's wife.
Now, who is Caleb Nutt?
He was Levi Nutt's son, the stonemason's son. And this was, he had, I believe...
Well, what's the relation to Aaron then?
Grandson.
All right, so Caleb is the grandson.
Right. And Caleb had, I think, 2 wives, or maybe 3, and this is done by one of Caleb's wives, Irene Burnham. Caleb was really a talented Nutt family member. He has this table with his name inside of it. The drawer said this was built by Caleb Nutt for a woman in Springboro.
Where is this table now?
That's down at Glendower.
Oh, down in Lebanon?
That's right. And they had it in an exhibition of Ohio furniture in Columbus, Ohio, about 5 years ago. And we researched information for them on Caleb's table. Little interesting sidelight on the Nutt family.
Well, it's nice to have artifacts from such a talented family.
That's right.
I know the tea set here is from the Nutt family, that beautiful tea set. That probably came from far back as Joseph Nutt, because it's quite elegant, and it would be something you'd have during Victorian times when having tea was popular. And he had the means, the financial means, to have such a nice piece. We have something else from the Nutt family. Do you want to tell us a little bit about these shoes? They're just precious little leather shoes.
Well, Aaron Nutt was a tanner. That was one of his primary businesses. He also called auctions. That was, you see his sale bills in estate settlements, but I believe that this was a pair of shoes that Aaron Nutt made for one of his children.
Yeah.
Do you know which child that he made them for?
Well, I always thought that it was for his wife. No?
Maybe.
They look more like an adult shoe.
Uh-huh.
But they're just as light and delicate, and they're lined inside with kind of a canvas material. Something else from the Nutt family that's very nice to have. Now, we brought the land patent, and do you want to explain to people what this land patent is?
This is the first deed that a person has for land in our area. When people first came here, John Cleve Sims thought that he owned the land, and people purchased their land from him for 67 cents an acre. And then he had an argument with Congress about how far his land between the Miami rivers extended. And it ended up that they cut off his land a mile north of Lebanon. And everyone who had purchased land from him had to repurchase it from the government land office. So then when they finished paying for their land, they got what's called a patent.
Well, no, that was terribly discouraging to these settlers in our area, because they thought they had bought legitimate land, and here they didn't have clear title, and so they have to buy it again?
That's right, and it was $2 an acre from the government land office. They had to go down to Cincinnati and make their payments there.
Well, how did this affect Aaron Nutt?
Well,
did he have the money to pay for it?
They kept passing laws giving people a little more time, some more years, and he ended up paying for his in 1812 from money from a trip that he made. He took farm produce down to New Orleans and sold it down there, and then brought goods back from Baltimore and opened the first store and made enough money to pay for his land around 1812, and that's when he got his patent.
Okay. We have a couple other things to show you, maybe. Let's see.
Here.
There is...
These are Aaron Nutt's papers at the Historical Society, Janet.
all the collected papers of Aaron Nutt. The societies spent a lot of money on these because they're so precious. They go back to the 18th century. Many of the dates are 1780s, 1770s, and they're all on scraps of paper. That's because paper was so valuable. And these are available to anyone who wants to see. They were documents of importance, and here they wrote them on small scraps of paper. Well, it's been interesting to see how you were able to find out more about the Nutts. I think we have more questions to ask, but that'll be up to future letters. Thank you very much for coming today, Martha.
You're very welcome.